Welcome to Regan's Corner Sport. First, that congratulates a Notre Dame athlete on winning a national championship. Go check that interview out. Jane O'Brien, Coach Coulter. How's it going? And how's it going into your third year here in South Central?
Yeah, real good, Josh. We've wrapped up a really productive off season with a lot of individual training, and the last couple of weeks we started focusing on a little bit more team oriented drill work, and really like where we're at heading into the first day of the season here.
Absolutely. So, what's kind of the incoming freshman kind of look like so far with your kind of knowledge on your training so far in this off season?
Well, we have Jack Cashel, who's going to actually be a dual sport athlete for us. He's going to golf as well as play baseball. He may have a shot at getting on the mound at the varsity level, being a left-handed pitcher, since our cupboard's a little bare when it comes to left-handed pitching. So I think he'd be the most notable freshman. But with that being said, we have a good core of freshmen coming in. I just don't know that probably with all the juniors that we have, a couple of years of development at the junior varsity level to prepare them for a varsity schedule. But we have Deegan Falls, Colton Elkins, just to name a couple. They've put in a lot of good work in the off season and look to be contributing factors, especially for our JV with some of those juniors moving up to the varsity level this year. There's going to be some openings at the JV level.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that junior class. You got Grass, you got Earl, you got Sullivan, you got Hampshire. So what are fresh juniors that we need to kind of notice other than the big names coming in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that core group of guys are going to be returning with tons of varsity experience, and obviously taking us to the Final Four last year, being a big force for that. But right now our outfield is wide open. With Jackson Boss going to be transitioning to pretty much catcher, probably 80 to 90% of our innings behind the plate. That opens up the outfield with the departure of Brandon Young and Alex Newburn and Matt Knight. Platoon the outfield a little bit, but we have guys like Billy Bird, who is ready to step up and has a varsity level bat. We also have Colin Ward to perhaps get out in the outfield a little bit for us. You may even see Braden Grass getting out in the outfield, not just being more of a pitcher-only role like he's had the last couple of years. Get his bat in the lineup, which he's been working hard at fine-tuning there. Up the middle, we'll have Gavin Gross, who's a junior returning for us, who played a lot of quality varsity innings last year. But then we had a transfer from Michigan City, Nolan Eaton. Right now he looks to be a varsity-ready bat and be able to play either short, second, or an occasional outfield spot for us. So that's pretty exciting. And then from inside the program, Colin Matheny, he'll look to make the jump up to the varsity level and perhaps hold down an outfield spot for us. Then we have a lot of key guys that are going to define their role as the season rolls around here. Guys like Tyler Carr, he does everything for the program. I mean, he bleeds his red and blue, and he's the last guy to leave the dugout, sweeping it. He's the first guy in there, making sure everything's where it needs to be. A true quality human being, number one, but a great leader in our program as well. And then we have Charlie Smoker and Derek Welsh, who will look to pick up some innings this year at the varsity level and kind of spot play throughout, other guys' day off and be able to pinch hit. We obviously had two great pinch hitters for us last year and role players like Alex Newburn and Matt Knight. And that's something that I look for those guys to continue. into key spots there. But yeah, I mean, outside the normal faces, the outfield's wide open for us. It's going to be position battles, and that's kind of the way that we want it to be heading into the first couple weeks of practice here in the spring. And then up the middle, we'll have position battles between really Nolan Eaton, Gavin Gross, and Tommy Sullivan between first, second, and short. Hanchar looks to probably remain at third base for us, and he's done a really nice job since we moved him there halfway through the season last year. So a lot of good things on the brink. We're not replacing a whole lot. That's the good news. I mean, we're going to need somebody to fill Bryce Glissick's bat in that DH role. But the great thing about this is it's it'll be the next guy up, and who's hot today. That's who can take that DH role. We have enough pieces to be able to play with it a little bit.
Absolutely. So let's talk about moving up a class because that second was kind of weaker. So what are kind of things going into that, kind of knowing that you have this tough schedule, and then now we kind of have a lot tougher sectional coming up?
Yeah, and that's a challenge that I knew that we were going to have to face. And would we have loved to compete in the 1A state tournament for the next years? Absolutely. That I think that we would have had repeat trips to the Final Four, if not down to the state finals, with the group of juniors that we have. But with that being said, that they haven't even thought about it. It hasn't been a negative connotation by any means in our program. We're going to take that as a challenge, and it really comes back to our work ethic and what the work that we're willing to put in as a program. We knew that inevitably it was going to happen. And quite frankly, it gives us a little bit of a fresh perspective, not to take anything away from the other opponents that we played in the sectional and the previous years, but it also gives us kind of a refreshed sense of purpose. We've got to step in to this new sectional, which they should be releasing who's hosting that here in the next couple of weeks. So we did put our name in to potentially host a sectional. But, when you have teams that you haven't played before necessarily in the recent years, such as North Judson and Winnemac, who had a heck of a good season last year, amongst others, including Hebron, but that'll be the only PCC team in our postseason sectional. So, it gives us a challenge as a staff to make sure that we're getting out and getting some scouting done, understanding our opponents a little bit better. So I think, we can sit here and pout about it, or we can sit here and go through the wall head on, so to speak. And I think that's the approach that the entire program's had. It's just a challenge for us. And if we play the way that we're capable of with the pieces that we have, honestly, if you're a top 10 team in 1A versus a top 10 team in 2A, I'm going to say the disparity is a little bit closer than a lot would think. So, the road to the state finals and the IHSA executive committee is supposed to be meeting sometime this week. As we may move to a 1-game regional and then a 2-game semi-state, like a lot of the other sports have gone to. I think that'd be beneficial for us. But, should we be fortunate enough to make it through the sectional, we're going to be in a spot where we are potentially going to be lined up against the defending state champs in Ileana Christian. And, very similar to a Lafayette Central Catholic program, well-respected, some good ball players. But, we got some good ball players too.
Especially when you have a ball player that committed to the University of Kentucky, who throws about in the mid-90s. With Bradley Farrell, you can compete with anybody in the Northwest region, anybody in the Central. So what are some of the outlooks in your pitching staff when you have Grass kind of set up your ace, kind of that Greg Maddox kind of player, and then you have Farrell, who just lasers in there when he's on, locating and stuff like that?
Yeah, and Brad's worked to kind of withhold the 28 and he's worked very hard at that in the off season, as well as fine tuning his pinpoint control and understanding his pitch types. I mean, he's definitely our smartest pitcher on our staff as far as understanding how to attack hitters. So that's half the battle right there. But his maturity has come a long way here in this offseason, going from a sophomore to junior year, and I look for that to grow even more as we get deeper into the tournament. Braden is every coach's dream as far as the mentality that he brings to the table, the leadership qualities that he has, and just that mentality of give me the ball and I want the ball. Don't take it from me. You're not going to take it from me, coach. So he's definitely that kind of kid for us. But then we've had some kids that have developed this off season to where really when I look at our lineup, we have 10 or 11 guys that can get up on the mound. So, as far as depth goes, we're in a good spot between Zach Coulter, Colin Ward will look to take some innings this year. Tommy Sullivan has worked on his pitching craft in the offseason. He was effective for us in the minimal times that we used him last year. And then another guy who's really gone all in on increasing his pitching skills is Gavin Gross. So I'd look for him to get on the mound. And then we've got, a lot of filler guys around for relief appearances, such as the Charlie Smoker and Derek Welsh's of the world. So we'll look for those guys to fill in some gaps there. And we've got some guys that might be one of their first years pitching competitively. But a guy like Billy Bird, who just hit 83, last week in a PBR event, and then he had a 97 exit velocity off the bat. So, I mean, there's going to be some new faces, but they're not really new to our program. They're right where they need to be, and they haven't shied away from the work that it's taken them to get to that point. So that's, a great thing for our staff to see. And, we've been working tirelessly to keep things competitive in the off season, keep things fun, and kind of keep the ball rolling. And last week, because this is something that I just like to sit and dive in because I kind of live and breathe SC baseball. But I was looking at our stats at what were returned, and we return 62% of our hits, over 60% of our runs, over half of our RBIs, over half of our stolen bases. But on the pitching side of things, we returned 71% of the innings that were pitched last year for us. So, we may have some new faces, but we're a very deep and experienced team. Actually, I like our depth this year better than even last year's squad because we do have some more pieces that we can fall to if we need to make a change. We returned 76% of our strikeouts. So it's not like it's a rebuilding year, and just because we're going up to 2A, we're not going to let that be a self-limiting belief, if you will. We're going to take it one game at a time and know with the pitching staff and the depth that we do have is that we can compete in a 1A or 2A state tournament, especially if we're talking about a one game. You don't have to be the best team. You got to be the best team today. And, that's where we saw against Lafayette Central Catholic. We were the best team for 7 innings, and they were the better team that day because of one really good inning for them. And, that's the lovely thing about the game of baseball.
Absolutely. And moving up a class, and plus having the way you guys' season ended last year, that's motivation to kind of get to that state level, even on a higher kind of ceiling. Because you've seen Boone Grove do it and stuff along those lines. And I feel like this club's kind of similar to that team in Boone Grove, where you have your pitching, who's stout, you have hitting all through 9. So I don't think rebuilding is a good answer with kind of putting it up there, because you guys are one of the favorites in PCC, and he brings in guys' conference and sectional opponents and stuff like that. I think that's probably the second school with their young talent coming up a little too, because with the Snyder kind of departure, Tri-Township takes a dip. And then Boone Grove and this and that still up there as well, even though they missed a couple seniors. But So you guys,
Yeah, and Morgan Township, they should be decent. They've got some pieces from that, that sectional championship team returning. So, and that's the good thing about the Porter County Conference is there may be better teams than others, but there's not necessarily ever a day off. I remember last year, I mean, we played Westville to a 2-0 game, and that was a team that kind of had peaks and valleys throughout the season. But, all it takes is one good guy, one good pitcher on the mound that can buzzsaw you a little bit. And at any given time, that's, kind of point in case is we get in the state tournament. If we have our pitching healthy, which we've got a pretty we have a pretty big focus on making sure that our guys are going to have fresh arms come the tournament time. So we're going to share more innings this year in the regular season to make sure that everyone's healthy and, as close to 100% as we can be going into the tournament. But, if our pitching staff, which is probably the deepest part of our team, is in a position where everyone's healthy come tournament time, we are going to be a dangerous team regardless what class we're playing through.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Because you have two aces on the top of your staff. And then Hampshire developing because last year with the slide pieces, at times he was unhittable. So you have three great pitchers there. And then Billy Bird kind of getting up there with the speed and stuff like that. You got Welsh potentially getting the varsity minutes and stuff like that as well. So what impact does it have? Most of your guys playing multiple sports. What impact does that have?
Oh, it's excellent for us, really. I mean, you look at most of our competitors, our top competitors, they're multi-sport athletes because that's the biggest thing that they get from it. Not only, using other muscles and other parts of their body that they wouldn't necessarily use in baseball, which makes them stronger, also helps with injury prevention and recovery. But just that competitiveness to go through a varsity schedule in a different sport, just the competitiveness that comes along with that is huge. That translates over to the spring sports. You look at Zach Coulter, we got the varsity quarterback. He's a leader in his own sense. Braden Grass with kind of that same type of mentality of no one's going to push me around on the basketball court. Colin Ward really stepped into his own on the basketball floor this year and played a great point guard for them. So there's not only the physical attributes that you get to it, but the mental side of things as well, and the leadership development and learning how to communicate with your teammates. And Derek Welsh stepped up and he had some great games this year for the basketball team. And I couldn't support that more. Just like with Jack Cashel, Coach Wilhelm, and myself, the golf coach, we sat down and we mapped out a plan for Jack because he wants to compete in both sports. And at a small school like South Central, that's something that we as coaches stand 100% behind.
Absolutely. And plus it gives the kids a little bit of a self-care situation because the constant grind, constant thing, you want the kids to work constantly throughout the practices, throughout taking the information. You don't want to get them brain zoned out and stuff like that, other than the ones that really want to dive in. So I like that mentality, have multiple sports and stuff like that. But what are some things that you guys learned from this last year that you're going to apply to this year to even get better?
Well, I think some of it is that our base running philosophy. So our entire philosophy on the base paths worked really well for us last year. We were very aggressive. We forced teams into mistakes. But the side of things that the casual fan might not understand is, us taking 12-foot leads, we might get picked off a time or two. But what it's creating is more fastballs for our hitters. People can't throw off speed because something's buried in the dirt. We're taking the extra 90. We're not afraid to run on anyone, even the best catcher in the state, if we get our proper timing, distance, and anticipation and follow our rules that we have within our base running, to be able to take extra 90s. The more runners that we can get into scoring position, no secret, the more runs you're going to score and the more runs you're going to create. So, with that being said, we're going to stick to that. We're even going to get a little bit more aggressive with our base running. Quite frankly, I mean, in a perfect world, you say, well, if you stole 100% of the bases that you tried to steal, that's great. I disagree. I think then we should have took advantage of more bases. If we're not getting thrown out, sometimes we're not being aggressive enough. So, we want to take extra 90s. I don't want to give stop signs to guys. You have to trust the players to have their own reads and give them rules to follow. If they execute correctly, like we rep on or we practice on, then the world's going to be a better place for it, and South Central baseball is going to be a better place for it. The other thing is, I think every baseball game, from a coaching standpoint, you try to win. However, I think we're going to redefine win a little bit. If we have to wear one to win one, meaning maybe this game, we're playing a non-conference 4A school in the middle of the week, that might not be a game that we necessarily need to try to win on the final score for our win-loss record. But maybe we're trying to execute 80% of our dirt ball reads correctly to take extra 90s. Or maybe we're trying to throw 70% first pitch strikes. Let's win the game inside of the game. That's going to help apply something. Maybe it's getting 4 bunts down. Maybe it's working on a suicide squeeze, which would have been an excellent tool for us to have kind of rep throughout the regular season, not just in practice for that Lafayette Central Catholic game. So it's identifying little things inside of each ball game. So at times the focus may not be on a win or a loss, but let's learn from this game and let's work on execution.
Absolutely. So speaking of big time games, you have 2 at the Railcat Stadium. You have Couts and you have University. So which one are you more pumped about, or equally pumped about?
Oh, I mean, I think that I'll even back up a step. We'll go back to April 8th. I mean, we play Fairfield and Wapahani in Kokomo at a bullpen PBR showcase event. I think that's a great opportunity for our kids. We play at Plymouth Friday night. We're going to go stay the night in Kokomo. Then we've got 2 games in Kokomo, and I think at least one of those games would be aired live through baseball across Indiana. So if you're not able to make it to the ballpark, it should be streamed to be able to view that game. And I don't know if you guys are going down there as well. So a couple multiple spots to be able to view those games. But Fairfield, they just moved up to 3A, similar to us. They were in 2A last year, a sectional champion. They lost in the regional in a tight game. Wapahani, they lost to Ileana Christian in the semi-state, and they returned like 80% of their starting lineup. So that's going to be a great measuring stick to see right where we are in 2A, on April 8th. So very early in our season. So that's a date I'm very excited about to kind of circle. We're going to face a 2A sectional champion from last year that's now into 3A with the Hirschberger kid that throws in the upper 80s to low 90s. And then we're going to see Wapahani, who went to the Final Four and played a tight game against Ileana Christian, who would be a proposed eventual opponent for us to advance in the state tournament. And then, going to Couts, the Couts date, playing at Railcat Stadium. That's going to be a great experience for our guys under the lights on April 19th. So that's going to be a fun experience for everyone involved. And then we turn around on prom day on the next Saturday. So we play back-to-back games at Railcat Stadium and we host University. That's going to be an exciting game. Last year we played them. That was the closest 9-0 game that either of us coaches have seen. We joked about it after the fact. We gave up 9 in 1 inning on a couple errors, and it was just kind of that runaway train a little bit on us. But they're a quality opponent. They've got a kid that throws in the mid-90s as well, and Jake Hooker. I don't know if we'll see him that game or not. But quite frankly, it's a quality program, and they do things the right way. That's kind of how we want to replicate our program to be around. So it's always a fun game when we get to play them. And it's been fun what we've done with them. Last year we went over to Kokomo and played them under the lights in a neutral spot. This year they're coming up and we're playing at a professional stadium on a Saturday morning. So our early schedule, as I sit here and look at it, it's definitely difficult the first half of the season. I was joking with the coaches, we could start 4-8 and then win the rest of our games, but it's also part of the growing pains and part of the plan that we have for our guys to be battle tested early, be able to get some confidence heading into the tournament time, and then not be shocked when we face a upper 80, low 90 kid like we did with Lafayette Central Catholic and Ben Mazer last year, or the way that we were so well prepared playing Boone Grove in the PCC championship game and absolutely ripped apart Drew Murray, who had stifled us pretty much every other time he's pitched against South Central. So it's getting those mental reps, it's getting them battle tested, and then it's building confidence from there, and that's our primary objective for this 2023 campaign.
Absolutely, especially when you go Valpo. Hopefully, there's no rain this year. Plymouth.
Well, yeah, we actually moved Valpo to the last game of the season before the PCC, so that's actually be a night game at their place. So we try to avoid those rainouts because I don't think we played Valpo in about the last 6 years. So that game's actually been moved to May 12th at 6 o'clock at Valpo.
Okay. Yeah. So Valpo and Plymouth and stuff along those lines, I think that's a good test right there because they have several players that throw in the 90s and kind of similar to where Bradley is. So that's a great test for your guys' sectional right then and there. But good talking to you, Coach. You're always welcome here on Regan's Corner Sports Network, and we'll be broadcasting your game against Wheeler coming up. And good luck with your guys' season.
Hey, thanks a lot, Josh. We look forward to seeing you at the ballpark.
For sure.